but Mohammed Waseem will have no cup run this season.
I emotional transferred him out.
Palmer got a bonus point, which is confusing to me.
Dodgy. Really
yeah.
dodgy.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the South African Fantasy Football Podcast. Game week 17, how's everyone keeping?
I'm extremely sad. I'm extremely sad. For multiple reasons this game week. I used a mini wildcard and still got knocked out of the cup.
Very unlucky.
So Liverpool's caravan will continue tomorrow night, but Mohammed Waseem will have no cup run this season.
Yes, it's unfortunate.
A special post for Mohammed Waseem. Lost by 1 point. The team you played bench boost, and the only bench player was Smith Rowe. He went out to a 1 point Smith Rowe. It's gotta feel bad.
It's unbelievable that happened. And I was watching this cup team the entire weekend as the games were happening, thinking that Guardiola went in, my heart sank, and I'm like, then Jackson scored, and I'm like, okay, there's hope here. And then we went to the last day, and then I said, if Semenyo can do something for me tonight, just get a return. That return sends me through no matter what it is. All he got was a clean sheet, and then it was over afterwards.
Did you watch that game by any chance? Semenyo had two really good opportunities to get
He hit
points.
the post, yeah, and then he had a couple of good shots that were really poor attempts at goal, which I was very disappointed in. So as soon as he went off, I switched the TV off.
But
I said I knew it was over.
He had a pinpoint cross to the left winger, and he hit it straight at the keeper. Just had hit it anywhere else.
He was very unlucky not to get a return. Very unlucky. But that's why I said I think it was destined for me to get sent this week.
Let's move on to the meme of the week. We have two actually up here. The first one, Kunya Itnuri, a little bit of little discipline over there.
Argy-bargy, yeah, post the game, and the best part is that so Aitnuri got his second yellow, and then he ended up turning into a red card, which also cost me to go out of the cup, because that -2 would have given me +2, and I would have actually gone through if it wasn't for him. So he was painful, and I emotional transferred him out over the weekend, which is unfortunate. But Cunha is also now apparently charged with violent conduct by the FA. Part of where this meme also comes in is that Cunha's appeal reasoning is that he's trying to clean the guy's glasses, which is quite cool. So, but I mean, there's hope for the Cunha holders at the moment, because I think even Razeen mentioned it, that it's probably worth holding on to your transfer, because there were a couple of incidents of violent conduct earlier in the season, and once the FA charge you and you appeal the charge, I think they've been taking about 3 to 4 weeks to actually give a response and then actually charge the players. So you'll potentially get a couple of more games out of it.
Also took some time, no?
Yeah, it took a month. Yeah, the FA charged, and then only a month later they actually handed out the ban. So I suspect it'll probably be a 3-game ban for Cunha at some point. But we'll hopefully I mean, to be honest, he was probably one more week left in the team before transferring him out. So if we can get him for this weekend, and then comfortable to then get rid of him afterwards, then at least we've got him for all of his easy fixtures. His returns were good. He had a couple of dry spells recently, but I mean, he's been valuable to some teams, I guess.
It seems like when he scores, he gets bonus points, which is good. But we're going to discuss potential Cunha replacements later on as well. So we'll get into more of that. The other meme we have up here is just the captaincy pick. Initially, people captained Saka because he arguably had the easiest of fixtures. A lot of people, I think the most captain was Palmer, because he was coming in with the hottest form, and then Salah, who's been the most consistent player in the game. So, but all three didn't really get to do much. Salah, with the only return really. Palmer got a bonus point, which was confusing to me.
Dodgy. Really dodgy though. Someone probably needed to go through in the cup game, so they probably gave Palmer that.
FPL.
It brought me closer. It brought me closer, but not close enough, unfortunately.
Oh, another very conspiracy moment. Like I don't know. This game is rigged.
Yeah, because they also pushed Jackson up to 3, Burmo down to 2. So I mean, they actually almost changed the entire structure of the Chelsea Brentford bonus points. From that entire game, which was ridiculous.
Very suspicious.
Especially so late. Because the thing is, and I think the question I always have is that, so for bonus points, why does it need to wait until the end of the game week to actually then change the bonus points? You should be able to do it that night, that the points actually get dished out, right? to wait an entire day. If they even did it even before the Bournemouth game, I'll say okay, because maybe admin doesn't work at night and he works the next day only, and they made a decision. But doing it after the Bournemouth game made it look very sus.
It made it look very sus, but also, isn't there an algorithm for it? Shouldn't it be more automated and transparent?
I suspect it is, but maybe once they're gonna probably say now new data came in, because I think they take a lot of the data from Opta anyway. Maybe they've changed some certain things there which may have affected the bonus points. Maybe they just updated their data and these are the new bonus points. They can always go back to something like that. But I think it's just a lack of transparency with to the managers to say this is the reason the bonus points have changed, which they've never been open about, I guess, for the longest of time, right? I mean, there's always been some really dodgy bonus decisions popping up, which is disturbing in itself.
Yeah, there's always, it seems like the higher owned player gets the bonus points.
Yes.
Before,
right.
when it was first introduced, it was like the English player would get the bonus points.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's move on to the results of this game week. Before we even get into that, I just want to say 2 managers sacked. Am I right?
Yes.
Wolves and Southampton. Some also like great and a lot of upsets this game week. One, Spurs winning, big upset. But,
yeah, quite upset. I agree. Surprising for me. Shame the guy even lost his job because he lost to Spurs. That's how bad it was for them, which is unfortunate. But maybe good for the club. I suspect they threw the game to get the manager sacked. Would have been the right thing to do.
Yeah, but not only good for Spurs, great result for Razeen, who is the only player I know that has Son in his team.
Yes.
Razeen, how are you feeling?
And he held him. And he held him for a long time because we were questioning last week, right, whether to take him out.
I was so close to it last week, and I'm so glad I kept him. I'm also glad that Spurs got a big win because they're playing Liverpool soon. So,
it's usually the opposite. No, but it never happens. It never happens. Spurs always lose to Liverpool unless the FA decide that they want Spurs to win. After last season's antics.
Last season was one of the craziest.
It was crazy. I've never seen worse VR decisions in my life.
That's the
I remember where I watched that game. I remember who I watched that game. That game will always be etched in my memory as the worst ever refereeing performance I've ever witnessed.
Yeah, I agree.
It was
completely agree.
Arsenal Everton, that was a bit of a surprise. Arsenal don't seem to have any firepower.
I just think Everton know to defend set pieces. I think that's the reason Arsenal probably struggled. Because James Tarkowski wins everything in the air, right? So
Liverpool vs Fulham was also another upset. A red card. I guess Liverpool did play well after that, even with 10 men, but just didn't have enough to.
It appeared as Fulham were playing with 10 men.
Yeah,
That's how Liverpool dominated that
quite
game.
A bit. I think Gravenberch dropped deep. Szoboszlai as well dropped to where Gravenberch was playing. It worked quite well for last period of the game, but the 10-man advantage is just too strong. 10-man disadvantage is just too strong. Razeen, what was your thoughts on the game? Did you think that was a red card?
Absolute shocker.
It was, it just happened so quickly, and then I watched it back, and I was like, first I was like, no, and I was like, yeah, okay, it makes sense, It was just one of those, but I was just so gutted because I just wish they could have not given it because of the fact that we had no left backs on the bench.
Yeah.
Oh,
and we don't
wow.
but it's one of those. It just had to be done, and I think apparently Tsimikas is back in training, so that's good also.
But it was very brave from Slot. I think the way he set up even after that, he went with a very front foot style still post and ensure they kept the ball. Because to be honest, they didn't actually look great with 11 men on the pitch when they conceded early. They started looking much better once they started. Because I think Fulham sat off a little bit. Surprisingly, I expected a Marco Silva team to try and dominate the ball afterwards, but didn't come through. And then Liverpool just dominated the game afterwards. The second goal was very unfortunate. It wasn't even on target, to be honest. So just that little deflection from Gomez into the net made it quite bad. I think I thought Liverpool were going to win it at some point.
It's always really interesting to see how managers, play with them. Like, how they approach changes to things. And I think it was very, very surprising not to see any substitutions made once the red card happened. And then again at halftime, still nothing. He just, stuck to his guns and he made his changes later. And I think it was really cool to see how Gravenberch pulled back and everyone else just kept going. And they asked Slot today in his pre-match Carabao Cup press conference about risking losing to win late on in games, not just this game with 10 men, but generally how it's been in the season. And he said that it's a combination of how he trusts his players because of that mentality of scoring late goals, but also his philosophy as a manager has always been to try and win games. So I like it. It's very positive, and we'll probably have a few bad days, but I think the good ones will outnumber those.
Really scared of Chelsea, who got their win. They now second, and I think now the next best title contenders.
Even though Maresca says otherwise, to be honest. But I think Liverpool's my only worry for Liverpool is Gravenberg 90 minutes almost every single game this season. I think at some point in time he's going to need a rest. And he hasn't been getting it and I've been surprised. But maybe he's just a really fit guy, to be honest.
I think they'd rest him now against Southampton. I'd hope so. He hasn't really been playing
so.
Endo.
No, definitely.
Very different player.
He said Endo's going to play. He did say that.
The other massive game that was quite fun in the end, United City. Finally, United fans are happy again. I missed the last 10 minutes and I missed everything.
Oh my God, you missed the game effectively.
I was out for supper and then I drove basically. I was playing ball, so I drove to the pitch, and then by the time I got there, game was over, 2-1.
Yeah, Mateus Nunes 15 seconds moment of madness. Dodgy back pass to Edison, went and cleaned Ahmad out, and then
Crazy.
it was done
It was really poor though from him. 2 really bad moments. I actually feel like he's going to be dropped just for that.
And he must be, right?
Yeah.
To be honest. But I mean, obviously playing on a right back, it's unfamiliar. I mean, obviously it's not natural not to think of that risk at that time of the game. Shame. I felt for him at that point because I mean, to be honest, I haven't seen him play his actual position for Pep since I've actually seen him at City, to be honest. So he's been used pretty much everywhere. So it's unfortunate, and I think with Kovacic fit, he probably doesn't make the squad or rather the first team any longer. And I mean, Kyle Walker with a shocking, I don't want to call it a dive, but I mean, he faced off against Hoyland and then fell to the floor, diving around when he barely even touched him, to be honest. That was hilarious. And I mean, captain of the football club, it's rather embarrassing to perform like that. So, I don't know. City don't look like they're coming back from this at this point in time. I don't know what's Pep's plan at this point.
And Ahmad really, what a wonderful goal to.
But what an statement, huh? From Amorim. What an early statement to go and take out my player from the squad, Rashford, not even bench him, completely remove him from the squad. You know, in my head, everyone's telling me when this guy joined, no, he likes that number 9 system. He's putting Rashford there. Rashford's United's number 9. I said, okay, great. I cashed in on 1 or 2 hauls. Then I seen 30 minutes, and then I was like, okay. Then I checked the starting 11 this week. He's not there. I'm like, okay, he's on the bench. Maybe a 30-minute cameo. Then someone shouts from the side, he's not in the squad, read this article. And I'm like, what? This man quotes about leaving out Rashford and Garnacho, and he watches what they eat and what they wear and how they pack their clothes. And I don't know what this man was saying. And then I'm like, yeah, I hope they lose because they were 1-0 down. And like, early setback for this guy after making. It just somehow always works out for these United guys. They can say whatever they want and somehow it gets backed up on the pitch, man. I was really gutted about that, not gonna lie.
But
and then Ahmad on the bench also didn't even come on. That was unfortunate.
But in all fairness, Hoyland played really well, I felt. I think he's cementing his place as number 9, and Xerxes also is getting into the groove of things. He had a few good runs where he held the ball quite well. I think Rashford is done. I think Rashford
I suspect his time at United's up. I don't expect to see him the next season.
Rashford has,
unless he really has a massive turnaround.
Rashford has West Ham written all over him. It's just, it is always going to be, he was always going to end up there. I don't know, I could just see it happening. Before we move on, the last thing I want to talk about is Palace Brighton, because Palace won 3-1. They were 3-0 for most of that game. Did any of you guys catch that game?
I watched some of it. I think I watched a lot of it, to be honest. I just missed the last 10 minutes, I think, when Brighton actually got their goal. But Palace utterly dominated Brighton. Brighton didn't look like they could create proper chances. It actually looked like Palace are getting into the groove of things again. And Brighton looked like they're falling off a cliff.
So it was a mix. Brighton defended quite badly. It was the first thing. But Palace put a lot of pressure on them. And Henderson was a machine. I don't know if you saw.
He played
made
very well.
some 3-4 great saves. I was a bit upset because I had Mitoma on my team. He saved one or two really good shots from Mitoma, and one was going to be an assist. But Palace, I'm impressed with them. I'm looking at them basically. That's the one thing I wanted to say. And as we transition, I just got the team of the week up. There's one glaring noticeability. There's nobody from the top four here. There's not a single Chelsea, Liverpool,
Yeah.
Arsenal, and City player, even though City is technically not in the top four anymore. But you got three Palace, three Spurs, three Newcastle. Newcastle also with a big victory. So it was very much a week of the unusual captaincy. Like none of the big captains made it, as we spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
But a few people did captain Isak. I saw one or two captains on. So, I mean,
But very, very decent fixtures. I mean, so it was hard to predict going differential this week because Parma had a decent fixture. Brentford don't look great away. And I mean, they did concede 2 goals. Like it was 2-0 for most of the game until Brentford got that late consolation. But you'd expect them to have done a little bit more. Liverpool against Fulham, you'd think that at home they'd be quite comfortable. As solid as Fulham looked, I expect Liverpool to have rolled them over. But the red card obviously
spoiled
intervened
things.
there. So I mean, those are your two best options. And Saka, Arsenal, you expected Arsenal to do something against Everton because as much as Everton, I mean, Everton surprisingly enough 4 clean sheets in their last 5, so they are one to watch. But I feel like that runs over now that I want to consider starting to play Mikalenko again. As soon as I play him, I know it's overs. The -1s and 2s are going to start rolling.
Sean Dykes is at the wheel. He's you know how he lines up, you know how he plays. So there's always a possibility of
Yeah,
a
he
clean
grinds
sheet.
the results out with the team. Yeah.
Just to continue with the trend of Arsenal, I'm going to transition into my team because one player I really want to talk about is I have Kai Havertz. I'm looking to transfer him out. I have Mbeumo on the bench, which was the one I actually should have played him, and I have Robinson as well from Fulham, was looking great. He was also on my bench, but I ended up with 63, which was still a green arrow for me. Won my FPL Cup game, really happy about that. Um, but yeah, not like my midfield really disappointed me. Mitoma, Semenyo, and Palmer didn't get me anything. I guess I started the wrong midfield, and I just got saved by Hall. But my talking point is when we get into players to watch is just looking at a striker, I guess, for Kai Havertz, or just to downgrade him and look to strengthen again in the midfield because I think Havertz, Mitoma, and Semenyo in the long term, I kind of want to phase them all out. And depending on what happens with Cunha, now I got another problem with him. And ironically, it was always Mbeumo that was going to be my next transfer. But he's done with all his hard fixtures now. So I don't know where we're going.
They're actually getting better now. So it's worth keeping him now and rather fixing elsewhere where there's a lot of non-performers there in your team. That's probably a better. Because remember, Mbeumo's on penalties also. You'd rather keep the guy who's on
That's the
penalties than
thing,
get
yeah.
rid of the other 3 that are not.
So I'll be looking at that. Maybe you guys can help me out with a few different differential.
His time is up in the team, and he's just performing after game after game.
Yeah, nice is in the form of his life at this point in time. Absolutely ridiculous.
Razeen, let's look at your team. Some great returns from your midfield, 6, 5, and 14. What are you looking to do now from here?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it. Now with this Cunha thing, it's a bit of a stress also, but I think if he's good for this week, then at least we sorted, then we can analyze that position next week. I need to sort out the 8 Nouri situation, and I might also want to be getting Son out this week. I'm thinking of Saka. So yeah, let's see. It's probably going to be a late one. I haven't done any early moves yet because there's been a lot playing on my mind because Saka didn't really do much in recent games, but it's probably going to be that Son to Saka move that I've been wanting to do that I'm finally going to get done.
And what are you doing with Rashford?
That's another headache now. We'll have to see. I'm not gonna do too much now. I want to see if he gets one more go maybe, but I have to get rid of him also. So that's another headache. But yeah, I'm just glad that I haven't really dropped yet this past
How
couple
many
of
free
weeks.
transfers you're sitting on?
Probably 2.
Okay.
True, yeah.
Yeah, so you can do Ait Nouri and Rashford if you need to, and then you'll have that one free transfer for Cunha next week if the ban does kick in by then. But I suspect maybe the FA will go on holiday a little bit and then give us a little bit of extra time after
Yeah, I
Christmas
want
and
to
New
keep
Year to then
on
dish out
against
the ban.
Liverpool this week.
Um,
Not sure. Not
the
sure about
the talking point would be is that Robertson is suspended. Tsimikas might not be rushed back, so you might be having a fixture where you're playing Gomez or left back or Trent left back and then Kwanzaa right back, and you don't have Konate, so already you really stretched. It's looking like it's going to be Allison, Trent, Gomez, Kwanzaa, and Van Dijk in that four. And
The fit defenders in the squad at the moment,
yeah,
yeah, the only four fit.
so it'll be a bit. I think it wouldn't be a bad shout to keep Son for one more week. Long term, you can never say with Spurs, you know. I think Mohammed Waseem,
I just don't trust Spurs, to be
yeah,
honest. I have absolutely zero faith in this football team. And we'll see. But I mean, you must remember Spurs also got a Thursday night, right? And then Thursday, Sunday is usually players getting. And remember, a lot of the Spurs injuries have been going on for weeks, so players are tired, might be fatigued by the time they get to the Liverpool game on Sunday, to be honest. So I'm not keeping much hopes there, to be honest.
let's transition to your team, Mohammed Waseem. And what you made 4 transfers just for this game week.
Yeah, it was looking okay. Actually, wasn't looking bad. Like especially on Saturday, I'm like, it's all right. Well, this is before Ait Nouri got sent off, to be honest. But I wasn't too unhappy with where my team was. I said, okay, I got the double Arsenal defense returns was decent. Salah didn't score and he wasn't my captain. I'm like, it's okay, it's not bad. Saka with the 3 points, I said, it's okay. I had João Pedro still to play, and I said, okay, if João Pedro can get a decent haul against a weakened-looking Palace, it'll make my life a little bit easier. But like, I'm not unhappy with my team in general, but after my 4 transfers, I expected a little bit more, but maybe I had too much expectation because I've gone heavy in midfield. If the midfield doesn't really perform, you're not really going to get much out of it. So it's quite unfortunate. But I mean, I did rage transfer Ait Nouri out on Saturday after he went from 0 to -2 to say like, it's not worth it for this guy at this point in time. So I did him to Robinson, which was my early move. Because the reason I did because I knew his price was going to drop and Robinson was going to go up. So I did the move just because it was a straight 4.7 to 4.7 while I had the funds. Because I don't want to be thinking about what other transfer to make.
I have your watch list up now. And the first thing I want to, before you talk about your players, we got Enzo, Chris Wood, Ahmad, and Raul. You had Chris Wood, and now you got him on your watch list again. Was it always a plan
Yes.
to bring him back once you took him out? Or you're just trying to look for
So
Cunha
so the Wood
replacements?
so it's Cunha replacements and the reason why he was taken out of my team back then is I still had my team really focused on building a team around Haaland.
Yeah,
So trying to free up some funds to bring João Pedro in to invest in the defense was part of taking him out at the time, and the fixtures weren't looking great. Brighton's fixtures looked decent, so it seemed a decent transfer. But now with Cunha potentially looking at a ban at some point in time, I don't want to hold him on for much longer. And their fixtures also get really bad, and Wolves just look poor at the moment. So, and I think they're signing that Vito Pereira guy as their coach, which should be announced quite soon. I think from maybe the Saudi or Qatar league or something. So, I mean, I also don't really know what to expect, to be honest. So, I'm considering what options I have. So, ideally, if I had funds, the Cunha to Isak would have been my preferable move, but I don't have the facilities for that. So that's why I'm looking at cheaper options at this point in time. But what I'm also looking at, after watching Semenyo the past couple of games, I'm just not impressed any longer, to be honest. Because I mean, most of the games he's been playing as a right back, even though he hasn't been right back. But I mean, it's felt like he's been playing as a right back. So considering freeing up some funds by getting either an Ahmad or an Enzo in there, just to use that money potentially elsewhere. So the thing is, if Cunha is able to play this week, I might hold off on this transfer, and then I might actually do potentially consider -4 next week to take Semenyo out either potentially for Enzo or Ahmad, and then see if I can use that extra funds to potentially upgrade Cunha upwards instead of downwards to a Wood or Raul Jimenez.
yeah.
I'm not convinced on Jimenez as yet because he's a minutes risk with Muniz waiting in the wings there.
Yeah, Muniz seems to be. I think he's gotten 2 goals in his last few games. So he's pitching in. Enzo and Ahmad both got Chelsea and United both got midweek games. So United in the Carabao
Yeah.
Cup, and I think Chelsea are playing in the Europa Conference this Thursday as well. So I guess you can have another look and see. I would also be wary to take out Semenyo. I was also watching him and disappointed. Bournemouth just don't score that many goals, and he doesn't seem to be
Yeah.
a finisher. Like he's gonna pitch in, he looks dangerous, but I think there's better options at that price point as well.
Yeah.
So
He's not focal to the attack at this point in time where he was maybe early in the season. Now it seems there's the likes of Tavernier and Clivert as well that are pitching in much more. And Evan Nielsen looks to be getting into games more. And then Utara looked really good yesterday, so I suspect there's going to be competition for places in that front
Yeah.
three of Bournemouth now.
the last question before we move on, Cunha replacements. Looking just at his price point and below, you have Chris Wood and Jimenez. Anybody else that we should consider?
I have João Pedro, unfortunately, so he'd be the other potential option because Brighton, as much as they look at, I think at João Pedro's price, it gives you decent money to share elsewhere within the team. But I haven't really looked at many other players, to be honest. One person that's probably I caught a side eye glimpse at is, and also you mentioned it with Palace, was Mateta. Because he looks, but I mean, after the 60-minute it did put me off a little bit more this week. But I think he might be a potential option should people be considering the replacement. Because he might be a great differential option because I think his ownership is quite low, and I think there might be some risk that people could be willing to take, especially if they've got strength up front. But my obvious replacement, if you've got the funds, is go Isak Jackson if you can afford those two. But if you want to go down, I'm not as confident that there's decent options available. Maybe Wissa. Instead of Brentford's fixtures are turning as well.
Yeah,
Wissa is not a bad option
possible.
either.
Razeen, I have your watch list up. You have Robinson, who Mohammed Waseem brought in, and I already have. And you have Saka, who you mentioned you wanted to sell Son for. Do you think you're going to make both these transfers this week?
No, I'm not just sure about them. I mean, I think a Robinson in for 8 Nuri is probably the way to go. I did miss out on a price change or two already, haven't I? But yeah, he's probably the best replacement. But maybe if I find a differential closer to the deadline, then that'll also be a nice move to go with. The Saka one, I'm also not too sure about. It's lingering. It's lingering there. But yeah, I just want to see also what happens with Rashford and then decide exactly what to do. But yeah, no early moves. It's probably going to be on the deadline day.
Yeah.
Whatever
I think
I do.
I think in the defense there's some decent options. I think that Howson for Bournemouth at centre back, he seems to be quite have a decent attacking threat in him as well. So I think he's at 4.3 or something.
Yeah,
so he's a decent
it's
option.
cheap.
Even Kirkesh is quite cheap at this point in time. So there's actually a reasonable amount of options available at that price. So there's definitely opportunities for finding a differential at that price. It's some solid players with decent fixtures coming up. And you could even get I think a Forest defender because I think their fixtures are looking okay as well going forward. Another option that's looking quite tasty at that price is Munoz from Palace.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna also say.
his goal threat's been fantastic over the past few. And I think after the Arsenal game, they've got Bournemouth, Southampton, Chelsea, Leicester, West Ham, Brentford, United. So it's a decent run over the next few to potentially plot one of those guys.
I have on my watch list, so I'll transition to that, and I have Ismail Sarr. So we can see the Palace fixtures on the screen, and I just wanted to highlight mainly Palace. They seem to be turning in form. Their fixtures seem to be turning as well. So if they can replicate what they had last season, and Ismail Sarr seems to be one now. He's got 2 double-digit returns, but quite I think 4 or 5 weeks apart. But after the Arsenal game, they got Bournemouth, Southampton, Chelsea, Leicester, West Ham, all great fixtures.
Yeah.
He's coming at 5.7, and it's actually Mitoma's fixtures.
Straight swap for Semenyo for me.
For me, Mitoma's fixtures changes after the next two.
Yeah.
Brighton going to a little bit of difficult fixtures, so I'm looking to make that swap. And Ahmad is the other option. He's probably the safer option because he's just looking so good. United are seemingly to be gaining a lot of momentum as well, and he seems to be the heart behind it all. It seems to be showing a lot of courage and a lot of enthusiasm, I guess, and free flowing play. It seems to be stemming from him.
And he's playing in the front three as well, right? Now they in the City game they moved into the front three, so that makes it even much more interesting because he'll be closer to the goal.
He seems to get 90 minutes. I think there's just 145 minutes since the managerial change.
Yeah, but he came off the bench in that 45 minutes. He didn't start. They needed someone to come change the game, and he came on and changed the game then.
So definitely want to watch. And I just don't know if I'm going to make a transfer this week. I'm just so undecided.
It just depends if you need the funds, right? I mean, if you need the funds, so your options here between Sa and Ahmad is if you need the funds, you'll go to Ahmad because you know you'll get decent attacking threat. But if you don't need the funds, and that's not a big issue for you because you've got funds to splurge out, so I think Sa might be it's a good differential option, right? If you want to.
Yeah, but you see, my thinking point was my plan was always to take out Mbuemo and take out Kai Havertz and go cheap front and bring in Saka because I felt I need Arsenal cover, but Kai Havertz is not giving me good Arsenal cover. But now, after watching Arsenal, I'm not convinced that I need Saka. I'm still not convinced I need Kai Havertz, but my thing is now maybe drop to Ismail Sarr, Ahmad, and upgrade Kai Havertz to Isak. So now, but then I would have no Arsenal cover. So that's my dilemma.
Alternatively, you can probably do three. You can do Semenyo out for one of these two. And then Havertz down to someone cheap and then use those funds to upgrade Matoma to Saka. Is the price difference too big?
I probably if I take out Mbuemo, I might be able to do that. Let's look at the upcoming fixtures. And so we have the early kickoff, which is nice. Lovely, another early kickoff. I hate weeks without an early kickoff. So it's Villa against City. Seems to be a big match. Both teams not in the greatest of forms. Who do you think is going to take this one?
I don't know. I've been saying City are going to turn around at some point in time. At this point in time, I have no idea. I think it's just going to be a draw, a bore draw.
I'm going to let me say Villa win, just to rub salt.
Just to get Pep sacked.
Yeah, no, he won't get sacked, but
you probably say City win then, just to keep it all different. I was going to say a score draw, like a 2-2 or something.
Yeah.
But City have to find their feet, no? Surely.
But with what players? Their current players are not doing the job. Pep, I remember they keep showing a video, the academy is ready if the players are not ready. I don't see him throwing the academy into these games. So, at this point in time, I've got absolutely no faith in City.
The fact that he's lost
playing really badly.
The fact that he's lost to Liverpool and the fact that he's lost to United, games where City should be really up for it. There shouldn't need to be any motivation or incentive behind it. But they're coming up against really good managers, and Unai Emery is a very good manager. I think he'll be relishing this opportunity to get this win. I mean, Villa beat Bayern early on in the season in the Champions League. I think they're going to take this one. I'm going to go on a limb and say
I think City are too stale at the moment. I think City are too stale at the moment. That's why it's hard for me to back them at this point.
Ipswich Newcastle. Do you think Newcastle are going to score big this game?
Yes, I think they'll do it again. Okay. I think they'll do it again. I think they're gonna just sucker everyone into buying all of their players, and then after this Ipswich game, they're gonna just go on a losing streak or a streak where they made you invest in all of their players and then don't give you any returns.
I won't be surprised if Newcastle don't keep a clean sheet because Ipswich have been getting a goal or two everywhere they go.
I haven't checked how Newcastle traveled, to be honest. So
no, not
I don't know how their away record is
really,
at the moment.
Really bad away record.
Yeah, maybe it can be something Ipswich can probably get a result. But I mean, Newcastle, who did they put for against this weekend? As much as I've seen they put for, I don't know what it was who.
It was Leicester City.
Oh, Leicester. And Leicester conceded shots like nobody's business at this point in time. It's like 70 shots in like a few games.
I was reading somewhere, apparently Pope got injured and Dubravka came in. He's 4.3.
Yes.
So apparently Pope's out, not for the longest time, 2 or 3 games. But, I mean, that's another option if you're looking for a cheap keeper. But apparently I read that every time Dubravka comes in, they keep clean sheets, which is
Yes,
just a weird
it is
stat, I
very
guess.
weird.
So,
Surprising, yeah. Maybe
because
it's the experience that he comes with.
Leicester have been scoring since Van Nistelrooy has come into the team. They've scored 2 or more per game, and then they were just completely shut out. It's just Newcastle, when they turn up, they turn up. It's just they have such
They
a good
can play, yeah.
midfield.
They can take teams to stretch if they want, yeah. But it doesn't happen often enough, unfortunately. And I think it feel like they just have so much. They just have a lack of depth up front, and I think it's hurting them in the long term because their players probably aren't fit enough to be able to sustain that type of performance week in and week out.
A game I'm looking forward to is Palace versus Arsenal. One, because I actually feel like Palace can cause an upset, and I'm hoping they do for Liverpool's title hopes. So I'm going to be watching that game. I've marked that game out as one that I'm really interested in. And I don't think I'm going to take Havertz out or buy Saka this week. And I think this game will determine more or less what I do going forward. If I go, I guess, ideally you should go Isak this week, but I think I just want to buy a bit of more time before I make that decision.
Yeah, but it's also a London derby, so it could be spicy. So
yeah,
might be very interesting.
Then Sunday, I guess, Razeen, what do you think about this Spurs fixture?
It's a non-event. It's a non-event.
It's a big one. I'm really looking forward to our banter with Waseem. First time fellow podcast colleagues watching that game. The WhatsApp group is going to be lit, I hope.
I don't bother. I don't even bother watching Spurs Liverpool anymore because it's Spurs always lose to Liverpool. It's not even a joke anymore. So it was funny seeing
and put it at the beginning, because if they beat us, it's just going to be really bad. Huh?
It is going to be quite bad, but I don't see it happening, to be honest. Liverpool have Spurs number for years now. It's seasons after seasons after seasons. Last season was one of the few. It was one of the few games where Spurs actually got lucky against 9 men to win. But I mean, aside from that, if you look at all the other results, there's been the odd draw here and there that Spurs have scraped, but no convincing results. Maybe besides maybe like 10 years ago or something.
That special
one. Okay, what's the score prediction? Score predictions for that one. North London. What are we saying?
3-1 Liverpool, I suspect.
I was also going to go 3-1, but let me. I'll say 2-0 Liverpool.
I'm not going to go with a Liverpool win then. There's no way I'm going to say we're going to easily beat these guys. After watching Son deliver the points for me,
but against a Southampton team that sucked their manager, it's expected to put a good performance.
That same Southampton team will probably beat Liverpool tomorrow in the Carabao Cup.
I promise you, I was looking at the fixtures and I was tinkering with my team and I wanted to take Mbeumo off, and I said, let me punt 1 week Maddison against Southampton. And the only thing that stopped me was Southampton's performance against Liverpool, where they dominated our midfield.
The 3-2.
And I said, Spurs buckle every time. I'm not putting in Maddison. So Southampton are a decent team. I think you're taking way too much credit from Spurs.
No, they look like they had no list to play that game, to be honest. The little bit of pressing at the start of this game, and the team fell apart very quickly. I mean, it was an early goal, but the team buckled completely. I mean, in 15 minutes it was 3-0. So it's hard to say. But I mean, Liverpool with the form they're in at the moment, and I mean, you just have to look at history to say that Spurs don't turn up against Liverpool anyway. It's just how it's always been. I don't look forward to any games against Liverpool anymore.
So Razeen, give us the numbers. What's your number?
Prediction-wise?
Prediction-wise.
I'm going to go 2-1 Liverpool.
Yeah, Salah captain, no doubt.
Yeah,
just because I haven't seen Spurs really do well and then do well again.
Yeah, and Spurs haven't been consistent this season. I mean, to get wins on the bounce is not something that, with the inconsistency, maybe the inconsistency fixes the result this week, but I've got no confidence at this point in time.
Okay, just before we end the stream, our final segment, we got to talk about captaincies, but I also want you guys to look at these fixtures and pick one player who's going to be in the team of the week come the end of this game week, and we'll see who gets that one right. So your captain and one player that's going to be in the team of the week that ideally shouldn't be your captain
From this game.
from this game week.
No, but I mean from this Liverpool Spurs game in
No,
terms
no,
of team
no,
of the
from
week.
No,
from
the whole
the
game
whole
week.
week. So like I'll give it a
Captain's
go.
probably going to be Salah. I'm probably captaining Salah, to be honest, without thinking twice.
I'm thinking Cole Palmer. I think like Spurs is the harder fixture.
I'm just hurt going against Salah, and I feel like I can never do that again to him. And just before Christmas, one last 2 games before he puts up the Christmas tree, maybe I'll get up some results for us, because it might turn negatively after that.
The one big thing pushing me for Salah is that I'm playing a team in the FPL Cup that doesn't have Salah.
Without him, yeah.
And he has Haaland, so Salah might be my only hope. But okay, I'll also say Salah as captain, and I think I'm gonna go with Bowen in team of the week.
Team of the week, West Ham, Brighton. Oof. Interesting.
I think Cody Gakpo will be in the team of the week.
That's a good shout. And your captain? Shout.
I'm not sure yet. I need to see who I'm playing in the cup. I need to analyze all my mini leagues and see the teams above me. And then
wow, that's so deep.
Probably still go with Mo Salah, you know. But I mean,
the right thing to do.
I feel the same after going Palmer this week, you know. I just, even though it's just at 4 points missed out on or whatever, it's just feels wrong going against him, man, because he always delivers, whether it's just a small assist or a big haul. He's been so consistent this season.
I'm thinking, yes, though. I'm torn between Saka, or I'm going for a shout that it might be Bruno Fernandes.
It's a good pick
against Bournemouth.
Yeah. I don't know. I like Bournemouth seem really organized.
I know. I like they solid, but I feel like Amorim is just going to get them firing against Bournemouth this coming week. So I'll go with Bruno.
Okay.
In team of the week.
But that's all for this week's episode. Any closing remarks, or we good to go?
I'm so happy Gary O'Neill gets sacked because Ait Nouri gave me a -2.